Alright, my fellow humans. So if you go to howtocode.pages.dev, don't worry, they'll always be linked in the description below. You can scroll down and we'll do some practice today on common errors. So go to this page and download this file. So save file. Alright. Wherever you're comfortable. And open it up in Racket. So the file name is called syntax error _ starter. Let's open this file up. Make sure down at the bottom left it says beginning student. So there we go. Alright. So hit OK. So the problem is each line of code contains errors. Try and fix them. So comment outline if you don't know how, use the cheat sheet. So let's visit this URL and just copy and paste it. Okay. So this is a cheat sheet of all the concepts that we went over, like expressions, variables, ifs, and functions, structs, etc. Alright? So if we hit Control R and run this code, there's a bunch of syntax errors that need to be fixed because, well, the program's not going to run at all until they're fixed. Alright? Some of these errors contain sort of like too little parentheses, too many parentheses, and etc. And you can do these in any order. It doesn't have to be starting from top to bottom. In fact, I actually don't recommend you do that because on the right hand pane or on the bottom one, depending on where your interactions pane is, there are error messages that will help you guide your way to fixing these. Alright, so pause the video and try to solve these errors. How to fix this file. If you don't know what it is, just comment a line out like that and move on to the next error message. Alright, when you're done, it should look like there are no reds here on this interactions pane. Alright, so pause the video and see if you guys can beat me to the solution. I'm gonna go with spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. Alright, so I'm gonna assume that you guys took a good swing at it. So let's start with the first error message. It says read syntax, expected a closing parentheses to close an opening one. Possible cause, indentation suggests a missing closing parentheses before line 10. So here's line 10, alright, and it says we're probably missing a closing parentheses. In fact, if we hit Control R, it's going to highlight on line 9 this red opening parentheses. So I can take a guess and say we probably need to close this parentheses block, right? If you don't know how or why, it's just the way variables are formed. Define the name, the value, followed by a closing parenthesis. So over here, define the name, this is the value. These set of parentheses belong to the string, but we need one more to close that one, all right? And that was the error. So if we hit Control R, let's move on to the next error. It says function call, expected a function after the open parentheses but found part. So plus 4 is 8, and we're going to call 8 with what? It's going to look like this. 8 is not an operation. As always, from the first video, open parentheses, the name of an operator, and a set of arguments, right? So in this case, there are just too many parentheses. Alright, so let's just delete this unnecessary wrapping. Hit Control R, and we can move on to the next error. So define expected only one expression for the function body, but found one extra part. So this right here, it was highlighted in red, right? So this is a function definition, and it is named G, takes a argument named A, and just adds 1 to that A variable, right? So there's a function call inside this function definition, which is a bug in a way, because, well, it's going to infinitely loop if it runs. So I can only presume that the person intended to put it outside of this function definition or delete it entirely from the body, right? Both are valid ways of fixing this. So I'm just going to put that outside right here, not wrapped inside this block, all right? So let's move on to the next one. If expected a question and 2 answers, but found only 2 parts. So here's an if expression. If we count out the parts, it's 1 and 2, right? Just mouse from left to right. If is 1, all right, and 2. So if I don't know, what an if is, or like what the structure should look like, go ahead and go to the cheat sheet. it needs 3 expressions. A Boolean expression, one for the true branch and one for the false branch. So if we go here, this is the Boolean expression, and we only have one expression afterwards. So we're missing this true branch, right? We're missing one of these two, and we just gotta add this in. So we just read this OR, right? OR takes another nested OR in this AND, but it's also nested inside this 1 right here. This 1 is inside this OR. In fact, if we run this, OR plus 1, yeah, it's an error. It says expects, or expects at least 2 arguments but found only 1. Alright, so that's kind of the issue here, because plus 1 is not a Boolean, and we're passing it to OR, which needs to be a Boolean. So we can only assume here that the person wanted to sort of not have that plus 1 inside this OR block. Alright, so we gotta put that outside. Alright, there we go. So it's not going no longer inside this OR block, and this if now has 3 expressions. So we just go left, 1, 2, and 3. Right, so this should fix this error. Hit Control R. There we go. So function call expected a function after the opening parentheses but found a string. So this is just another case of too many parentheses. Again, this string is not an operation, right? It has to be string append or something, and we're just unnecessarily wrapping parentheses here. So we're going to delete this unnecessary wrapping. So you go away and you go away. Alright, now we have a variable named v that holds the string name. So hit Control R, let's move on to the next error message. Con expects a clause with a question and an answer, but found a clause with only one part. So we go to the cheat sheet. Con is formed like this. So it needs a question expression and an answer expression. So you need to be able to count 2 parts, alright? So let's see, it would just mouse over or hit the right arrow key. 1. Where's the second one? Right? So this explains this error message. It only found 1 part. So what's happening here? There's probably too many parentheses, right? Because this doesn't make sense. If I copy and paste this over here, just to make it so we can see it more clearly. Where's the operation, right? Open parentheses operator. There's no operator right after this opening one here, right? There's one after it, right, which is the string append block, string equal question mark block, but none out here. So we can only presume that this is the case of too many parentheses, because cond, again, needs 2 parts, a question and an answer. So we just delete these, right, this unnecessary wrapping right here and right here. Now cond has 2 parts, right? The first part, and this is the second part. So that was the case of too many parentheses again. If we Control R on this file, that should be most of it. Let's see, plus 1, 5, and then minus 3, 9. So this is a case of too little parentheses, because plus only takes numbers. Here we're giving it a minus. Alright, so we can only presume that the person wanted to wrap these into parentheses, and yeah. Alright, hit Control R, and let's see. fx, function call, expected a function after the open parentheses but found a variable. Alright, so f of x is a variable, not a function, because this is how you define a function, right? And if you go to the cheat sheet, let's see, functions. This is how you define a function. It has to match this sort of syntax, alright? So, too many parentheses is one thing we can assume, or you can just comment it out if you don't, understand the intention, because that f of x was not an operation. It wasn't a function. Alright, still a couple more. String append expects a string given 21. So I am 21 years old. So 21 is a number, and we got to turn that into a string by using number to string. There we go. That fixes that error. And looks like I think this is the last one. Define f of x plus 1, 2, and then let's see, the string of 1. So plus only takes numbers, but we gave it a string. So there are 2 ways we can fix this. We can delete these 2 quotations, or we can just wrap this around. Let's see, string to number. Both are valid ways of fixing this. So just do it this way. Alright, there we go. So now all the errors are gone, and it just runs this file correctly. Ignore these black things right here. For now, I'm going to go over that in the future. But that's one way of fixing this error right here. We can just delete these quotes. Is another way, because it shouldn't be a string, right? Alright. So these errors are called syntax errors, and they prevent code from even running until you fix the missing parentheses, maybe like some spelling typos, and etc. You see me make some of these in some of the exercises. And they're really easy to spot because you get a friendly red error message off to the side, and usually DrRacket does a good job of highlighting the line of code that causes that error, alright? And a common mistake that beginners do is that they randomly type in more code to fix a problem, or like wrap these around more parentheses, alright? Because usually that's, human instinct to sort of brute force your way to a solution. And this will only make things worse. Just take a deep breath and be very clear on what you need to be doing and how to express that in code, alright? And usually syntax errors are just things you learn from trial and error and somebody constantly correcting you. So feel free to ask on Reddit or on the Discord Racket or in the comments below, and you'll just, slowly get your way to easily spotting syntax errors and fixing them. Alright? Thank you for watching, human. If you wish to interact with more of your kind, join our Discord linked in the description or on screen. If you want to aid in my quest for world domination, consider hitting the sub button. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it, thumbs down if you didn't. Any questions, comments, or suggestions, fire away below. Also, check out the annotations on screen for the next relevant video.